So Paul is not Paul anymore. On the streets of Arrakeen, there lurks a blind dude. In baggy clothes, Reeboks or Adidas, and he preaches the Fremen against the Emperor. This preacher is openly against what Paul and Alia Atreides built. Even Alia knows that this guy is not to be messed with because he allegedly is Paul Atreides himself. Why would Paul Atreides go against the Atreides Empire? Why would he go against the Fremen? Why would he go against his sister? After all they've been through, but more on that later. Children of Dune is the third book in the Dune series, and why are you even here? I thought Dune Messiah was the end of Dune, but what happens next is something fierce. See, coming from Dune Messiah, Frank Herbert wrote this book with only one thing in mind. He was set out to make a banger, and he delivered. I don't know why people rate the first book so high in their rankings, because in my personal experience, each book is surpassing the predecessor in one way or another. And hold on, just because this is a book review, we're not gonna analyze sentence structure and readability and poetic punctuations of them. In the first chapter, Stilgar is thinking about unaliving the Atreides children. Yes, Stilgar. In the middle of the night when the Atreides children are sleeping, Stilgar was really thinking about the future of the Fremen and the universe as a whole. He was so in shock from the last book that he was thinking about ending it all. And when you really think about it, it's justifiable because these are not your normal innocent 8-year-old children. They are preborn, and more importantly, they are Muad'Dib's children. They are at the center of the empire. Just their existence is a threat to peace. Because Stilgar doesn't think like other Dune characters. He thinks in reality. A plus B equals C. So what effect will that have on the real world? That's what's going inside his head. And that's what I like about Stilgar too. He deals in only the factors which can affect the greater things in life. And he's right too, because Alia, oh nah, we'll get to her in a bit, but she is not going to give up her claim like that. They're already gonna end up dead. Might as well do it now. But that's not what Stilgar fears. Because what if they win? What if Leto succeeds against Alia? What if he goes on to become just another Paul? The Empire is cooked. And before we really get into it, I know you are a newbie fan, so you don't even know what I'm talking about. So before we really start playing chess, we have to know how the pieces work. So let me give you some context. Jessica is here on Arrakis after I don't know how many years, and she's here apparently to ensure that the twins are not in bad influence. But her real reason of being here is to train Leto and Ghanima in the Bene Gesserit way. The Corino family wants the Atreides twins to fall, hopefully bringing their long-ended empire back to glory. The priesthood of Muad'Dib wants the Atreides twins to follow in their father's step. They're after their bag, Chom wants to use them to get to the wealth behind Dune. The guild navigators want control of the twins because no Arrakis equals no spice. And Alia didn't want competition to her throne. So all of these factions want to either control or completely destroy Leto and Ghanima. All of them have plans for them, but no one cared to ask what the Atreides twins actually wanted, because Leto and Ghanima aren't like Paul. They are not getting jumped, they are the ones doing the jumping. There is a chapter somewhere along the beginning chapters of Children of Dune where Leto and Ghanima literally spoil the whole plot of the book to each other. Both of them from the start are shown as people not to be messed with. Leto especially moves so cold for no reason in this book. I'm surprised why there are no Leto Atreides edits. Like in another chapter where he forcefully takes Stilgar to the desert for no reason other than to talk. But instead of talking, Leto proceeds to spoil the whole plot of the book to Stilgar. Like, you see this place? I'm gonna die here. Oh yeah, also be aware of Alia. She'll try to kill you and kidnap Lady Jessica. Like, bro, what? Leto and Ghanima just moved differently in this book, bro. Dune always has this three-dimensional combat going on whenever two characters are talking. Just the way characters talked made it feel like they were physically fighting. I already knew dialogue in Dune was excellent, but Children of Dune just takes it to a whole different tier. An example I can bring out is Leto talking to Jessica for the first time. She demanded, holding the poisonous Gom Jabbar at ready beneath her robe. Will you be her executioner? He asked, his voice deceptively mild. He pointed a finger at the hand beneath her robe. Do you think she'll permit you to use that? Or do you think I'd let you use it? Jessica found she could not swallow. Dune books were always heavy with the spies and the secret hand sign, but this book takes it a little too far. This dude Javed was out here sending secret messages with his throat. All of these chapters were so unintentionally funny, especially the first half of this book that was hard on politics. Speaking of politics, that was done excellently too. I still think that the most realistic representation of diplomacy was shown in Messiah, but this book did it without seeming boring. And that really shows how much experience Frank Herbert had at this point. Anyways, Leto. See, Leto, Ghanima, and Alia are pre-born. They have all the memories of the past, but can't see the future like Paul. Paul was different. His abilities let him see clearly into what was about to come. The pre-born, on the other hand, need massive doses of spice to even attempt that shit, which comes with a huge risk, not just an overdose, but possession. The past can take over than mind. Leto's whole goal in this story was to bring about the golden path, something that Paul couldn't do. He was yapping about it the whole book. But to succeed, he couldn't just be a pre-born. He had to be like Paul. He had to be truly prescient. In the previous book, we are shown how Paul ruined the empire, but here it really starts to show how the Fremen specifically suffered. The Fremen went from being an honorable and strong tribe to these stupid people, no different from the Harkonnens. And now they've just lost their culture, becoming disorganized, gullible, and outright degenerate. Even Arrakis itself has started to change. There are green plants now, and water is no longer scarce. And Leto wants to change that. What he suggests in this golden path is to save humanity from a future where it becomes stagnant, predictable, and ultimately vulnerable to extinction. See, according to Leto, Paul was too over-reliant on prescience, to the point where he became a slave to it. Muad'Dib was revered as a god but was ultimately trapped by the very future he saw. He lived in a constant fear of stepping outside the bounds of what he thought was necessary, and that fear chained him into his path. Somewhere in this book, Leto discusses free will, probably with his father, and he explains his vision of a future where he wants to break determinism, and that, according to him, will bring eternal peace, the golden age of humanity. But before that, he'll make humanity suffer for 1,000 years. According to him, it's not just suffering, it's engineered agony, where countless generations will live and die in servitude. He's like, oh, you thought the jihad was bad?
I go two more for y'all.
Now, if you ask me, that's some straight bullshit. Tell me if I'm missing something, because how does giving humans free will lead to peace? Even if we all agree to never fight again, determinism is built into the universe. You cannot change the laws of physics. Let's say hypothetically, randomness doesn't exist. If everything is set in stone, then what? You can't just whoopsie your way out of this one. I don't really get how Leto plans to change a fundamental property of existence. And to be fair, the golden path isn't fully explained in this book. I'm just going off on my own evaluation and what the Dune wiki says. If you ask me now, this golden path seems like a bullshit excuse. If you ask me after I read God Emperor of Dune, I might agree a little bit with Leto. Let's see what happens. But with Leto, I really wanted to see this trope happen. For some reason, I initially thought that he would be a flawless character, one who completely skips the hero's journey. Let me explain. So most protagonists follow a structured arc, right? Overcoming obstacles to grow. But I wanted to see a main character who didn't need that. Someone already complete, moving through the story in an interesting way without an arc. And I thought Leto would be that, but I was disappointed. Not in his character, just in missing the chance to see this trope done. The closest thing I have seen to this is the protagonist from Tenet, though not quite the same. If you know any books or shows that do this perfectly, let me know in the comments. And Ghanima, I don't really like Ghanima. She fully agrees with the golden path, literally lost her memory and regained it for the cause. That's some next level determination, by the way. But honestly, she has her moments, but compared to the other characters who maneuver so vibrantly, she feels a bit average to me. With that being said, her arc with Farad'n could make things more interesting. Oh yeah, this one is really good. Farad'n is good. Oh yeah, his introduction is kinda weak, but the way he picked off was crazy. Man, I love Farad'n, especially his chapters with Jessica, excellent. So Farad'n is the son of Vensika, who is the sister of Irulan and daughter of Saddam IV. He might be a Corino, but
look at this dude.
Let me tell you this. When I see Farad'n, I see Paul. In my Dune Part 2 video, I say that Paul is competent since Dune Part 1. I'm not gonna explain the whole thing. Basically, Paul is not like the other protagonists. He is him from the start. And I see Farad'n walking on the same steps. There is a chapter in the book where Jessica, Duncan Idaho, Farad'n and his mom Vensika are talking politics. Jessica and Duncan Idaho representing the Atreides and Farad'n and his mom representing the Corino. And this dude removes his own mother from the room in front of the enemies, because of reasons I'm not gonna explain, and then proceeds to take both Jessica and Duncan in a conversational combat alone. That's GOAT activities right here. And mind you, Jessica is a seasoned Bene Gesserit and Duncan Idaho is a mentat at this point. And Farad'n is just around 18 years old and he stood his ground. Bro was out handling both of them single handedly. Yeah, of course, Jessica wasn't really against him or he would have been cooked, but still, this is Jessica we're talking about. This dude Ferdin was out here talking politics with white shorts on. I'm not gonna tell what actually happened here because spoilers, but just know that every chapter where Ferdin was here, he cooked. I also really liked the mother-son bond Jessica and Ferdin built through this book. That was kind of cute. Really made me worried because at one point, someone tells Ferdin to stay aware of Jessica because she might try to, you know, because she's a Bene Gesserit. I'm glad that didn't happen because this book is kind of weird. We have the Baron Harkonnen, the Didi disciple final boss, warning everyone in a 10-meter radius. We have Ghanima talking about and of course we have the the beef swelling scene.
What?
Everyone knows about the beef swelling scene. I can really see the weirdness starting, and I expect that it's only going to increase with the next book. Ferdin would be my favorite character in this book if Duncan Idaho didn't exist. I didn't even talk about Jessica, that's crazy. What can I even say about Jessica? I don't even know. She's 10 out of 10. This book is kind of split into two parts. The first half introducing things and setting things up, and the second half again introducing and setting things up. It really feels like there are two events in this book, the ending of the first half and the ending of the book. And just because it doesn't feel like I'm completely meat riding this book, the second half of this book does die down a little. See, somewhere along the midpoint of the book, all the characters just go in a hibernation mode. The plot takes a huge pause in order to set things up for the finale. And probably this is my only concern about this book. Plus, of course, the Paul Atreides problem, but more on that later. Every character slows down in this middle phase except Jessica. She, Ferdin, and Alia, I think, hold this book together even during their absence. See, Jessica might appear powerful and witty, but inside, she's broken. After the events of Dune, Jessica was horrified by her and Paul's actions, even if she would not say so. So much so that she left Arrakis for roughly 20 years, leaving her son and daughter alone. And now, Jessica sees this new alliance with the Sisterhood as a chance to reconcile with her daughter. See, this is why Ferdin and Jessica go hand in hand. Jessica starts to see in Ferdin what she could never see in both her children. Ferdin is to Jessica what Paul and Alia could never be. Don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that Jessica doesn't love Alia or Paul. It's frankly the very opposite. She actually feels guilty for creating them because Paul was never supposed to happen. Jessica was supposed to bear only daughters, but she and
You
her
and your
pride
pride thought you could produce the Kwisatz Haderach.
and Alia, she was just a product of fate. Jessica was so indulged in the continuity of things, so indulged in getting Paul to his throne that she drank the water of life. And yeah, there is an argument that it was not Jessica's fault, but that doesn't matter. She did create an abomination, an inevitable ghost that will come around one day. So everyone knows that Paul's character is the best in the Dune books. I mean, he's the main character. It's only fitting for him to have the best character arc. But a close contender would easily be Alia Atreides. Frank Herbert really went in his bag to make these characters. When we're talking about a complete arc, like the traditional cycle, Paul is definitely better. But Alia's whole arc is just beautiful. From Dune to Children of Dune, I would have never thought that Alia would be this tragic. But I should have known better because Alia would walk on the same steps as Paul, but only worse. I will have to give spoilers for this, so skip to this timestamp if you haven't read the book. Dune explores determinism, the lack of true free will. But in Alia's case, it's especially tragic. Her life can be viewed from two perspectives, the individual and the universal. From birth, she was different, seen with either fear or faith. She spoke with wisdom beyond her years and was the sister of Muad'Dib, the emperor revered as a god. The Bene Gesserit condemned her as an abomination, while the universe saw her as a holy figure. But on a personal level, things start to get disturbing. Alia was never truly her own identity. She was born, consumed by ancestral memories. Aside from Jessica and Paul, no one really understood her. No one loved her as a person, only as a deity. After Paul's departure in Dune Messiah, she was completely alone, afraid to take any step by herself. She naturally tries to strive for Paul's heightened perception, but instead of prescience, she gets possessed. And what's crazy is that after Duncan Idaho sees her possessed for the first time, he leaves her instead of giving her comfort. Paul's children abandon her. Jessica already sees her as an abomination, and Ireland doesn't know shit about anything. And when you look at this from her perspective, Jessica starts to look like a villain. Duncan Idaho starts to look like a fraud. The twins, evil. No one was really there to help her. There was nothing she could do in any capacity to change her fate. The same could be said for Paul, but I feel like it's more unfair when it comes to Alia. When she talks to Duncan Idaho for the first time after her possession, Duncan easily calculates that she is being possessed. And I thought that if Duncan can make out that this was not really Alia, then she's never going to stand a chance against people like Leto and Jessica. This was going to be easy works, the dumbest duo I have ever seen, but what emerged was something truly evil. As the story progressed, Alia Atreides became more debauched, regretting yet embracing every step. Her mind wrestled between two opposing forces, and Frank Herbert's vivid depiction of prescience and possession made it feel almost grotesque. She stopped caring about others' perceptions, no longer hiding her possession, or rather, the Baron stopped hiding. And that self destructing behavior makes it even more heartbreaking because the Baron wasn't really trying to help Alia. Even if Alia won in this book, the Fremen around her figured out that she was possessed. The Baron made her completely isolated from everyone. I could fix her though. And all this agony, all this frustration got released in the second last chapter of this book. This is a highlight thing. This chapter is something else. This is the only moment where a book made me feel sad about anything, like genuinely. Jessica hugging Farad'n while holding back tears is such a real moment. Jessica never cries. She didn't even cry when Paul died. And it really shows that despite their fall off like that, Jessica always loved her daughter. And this is where the fraudulent nature of things start to show. Duncan only left Alia because he thought that it would be best to leave her alone. Jessica knew that Alia's condition had reached a point of no return. It's not like Jessica left her because she hated her. There is even a scene in the book where Jessica says that the reason she left Arrakis after Dune was because she was afraid of what she had created. And that's such a layered characterization only for Dune Part 2 to make Jessica look like a stupid ass old dimensional old hag. You thought I was done with Dune Part 2? Nah, I'm still here. What's tragic is that Alia's condition was so severe that the characters distancing themselves from her was probably the best course of action for everything. The only other place where I felt a sadness similar to this was when Duncan died. But that was not sadness. That was.
That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
What even do you want me to say? He's the GOAT. He has been the GOAT since Messiah, and he's the GOAT in this book. When I wish Jason Momoa could actually act good. I always like when characters entered into a mental trance. That is one of the coldest things Duncan does in this book. I think he does this multiple times throughout the book where he will tap into this completely mental state and contemplate for whole paragraphs. And the narrator is hyping him up like, Duncan only did that in 0.002 seconds. That's so fire. I think Jessica does this too, and whenever this happens, you know shit is serious. It reminds me of Gojo opening his domain for 0.2 seconds in Shibuya arc. Man, what do I even say about Duncan? I don't really want to explain his character arc and his goals and motivations. Do you really want that? Do you really want me to glaze Duncan Idaho for the next 5 minutes? You know he's the GOAT. I know he's the GOAT. And we all know his scene with Stilgar. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but what Duncan does here is crazy. Every chapter with Duncan Idaho is peak fiction. But here's a character who deserves to be talking about though. Let me just make one thing clear. Paul is not good in this book. It's a Cook Apollo video. I have to hate just a little bit. See, coming from Messiah, I thought that Paul was not going to be in this. And when they introduced this preacher and said that he was Paul Atreides, I was not happy. See, I'm a big fan of endings, and when a character arc ends perfectly, not only literally but also narratively, that's all I want. And in my opinion, that happened in Messiah. Till the very moment that Paul confirms that he is this preacher, I was completely in delusion that this preacher was a fraud, masking himself as Paul. It's not even a reveal now that I think about it. It was out there from the start that this was Paul. And Frank Herbert tries to give him a redemption arc where he regrets his past decisions. Bro, watch Vinland. I'm a big fan of redemption arcs, but this just doesn't work for me. Hey, this might be me fed up with the past characters coming back trope, but I don't know, man. There is an element of passing the torch down in fiction. At some point, you will have to let go of the past characters. And Children of Dune is a masterclass when it comes to this. It started so strong with new characters like Leto, Ghanima, Farad'n, and even Alia, who were interesting enough to carry the whole book by themselves. But Paul just being here seems kind of necessary to me, at least subconsciously. And don't get me wrong, he's done excellently even here, but when you compare him to the other characters in this book, he's not even close. Like, I didn't say it much, but Leto's whole scheme was so interesting. The way Leto guides not just the Empire but also himself is really good. But whenever Paul comes on the screen, the same kind of weight is not felt anymore. If I read the three books again with just Paul in mind, I might just see a character cycle which seems complete, but for that I have to read the three books again. And I do understand that Paul had to be here in order for this new arc of Dune to start, but right now Messiah is the actual Paul Atreides ending for me. And remember the middle part of this book being slow? I think that Paul plays a huge part in it. This book suffers just a little bit from pacing. Yeah, sure, there are some good chapters in between, but overall, the middle part of this book, comparatively, is the worst part. Here, I see Dune slowly shifting from a political drama to a philosophy book, and I like that. But personally, I like the political drama more in this book. This is really where I understand people who say that Dune is better than all the sequels. I might not agree with them completely, but I do see it. See, Dune had perfect pacing. You cannot match the pacing of Dune. It is an excellent piece of media when it comes to pacing, and Children of Dune fails at this. The whole middle section of this book made me rethink my choice of naming this book the best I've ever read. And in this middle part, as I said, Paul and Leto are really the main characters, and this is where Paul falls off a bit. This kind of edged Paul's character for me because he has been on such a beautiful arc, and just this little presence here makes the whole arc seem imperfect. I want you to understand that it's not even a writing thing. The writing for Paul is done beautifully. It's just that it doesn't matter how good the writing is. Just Paul being here feels like a third leg. And I know I hated a little at the last minute, but that was just a minor complaint. I wanted to talk about so much more like Stilgar and Irulan, but how long is this video already? This video was supposed to come out after the Dune Part 2 video, and well, that didn't happen. So if you watch this video till here, I love you. Let me know in the comments what you think. And you know how I said that Messiah is actually the ending for Paul and not this? Well, you know what to do. Children of Dune is still my favorite book.